I'm a soccer fan. I love a good draw, but it's just not American. It's just fundamentally un-American.
So hello and welcome to All Four Quarters, your one-stop shop for news, views, and overreactions to all things NFL. This week we saw breakouts from rookie running backs and broken legs from experienced wide receivers. So hey, we got Connor here and we got Sean.
Uh,
How are we getting on, Sean? How's all down in Cork? How goes book prep? I believe the audio book is out slash close to out.
yeah, it's there's been a slight administrative technical delay, which means it might take a week or two for it to get approved, but it is ready to go. As long just release the damn files, Amazon. But yes, no, I'm very excited about that. Should be out maybe next week. So that again, for people who are interested, it's the name of the book is Evening Star, and the audiobook is narrated by Talon David, who's a very talented woman who has done many, many, many good audiobooks, and mine hopefully now ranks among them. So yeah, it'll only be available on Audible exclusively for at least a while, but they've got good audiobooks there, so you may as well sign up for them. So yeah, I hope you guys like it if you check it out. Apart
Very
from that,
exciting.
not much going on. We took the dog to the beach, which we haven't done in a while, and it
Ooh,
was
lovely.
yeah, yeah. We had this kind of weird, like it was sunny but wasn't warm thing going on for a
Mm-hmm.
few days last week, which was nice. And now we're settling into apparently there's a storm on the way, so the winter is upon us.
Yeah, I've timed it well now. There's a big storm about to hit, and I'm going to be driving down to Kerry on the weekend, so that'll be nice. It's already an incredibly boring journey, and now just make it all wet and grey as well. That'll be great. But no, quite enough up here now. Got out for uh, a round of golf with a friend of the pod, Shane, and obviously the NFL was in Dublin, so I kind of went down to Chief's house, which they took over one of the bars in O'Connell Street, which turns out to be a much bigger bar than I thought it was. It was absolutely huge. And yeah, no, we had great fun. It was a lovely old weekend, but nothing too wild or crazy outside of that. Obviously, there's a lot going on this week in the NFL, so we have a fair bit to get through. We'll start in controversy corner, and wouldn't you know it, it was going to happen in Ireland. There's a report of an incident, essentially kind of an assault and robbery, is what it sounds like, against Pittsburgh's backup quarterback Skylar Thompson in Dublin. So Skylar Thompson is currently on injured reserve, so wasn't slated to play, but would have been, holding a clipboard and assisting on the sidelines and so on. Apparently, on the Friday of the game in Dublin, he was robbed. There's been no Garda report or official complaint filed on this. It was just kind of the news kind of got to the Irish media there on Sunday afternoon, I think it was. But yeah, just an unfortunate story. I was saying at the time, it's a brave mugger in Dublin who, like, even the smallest of backup quarterbacks would still be kind of a brave target to go for. I am somewhat intrigued to find out where and when this happened. Given Skylar Thompson wasn't slated to play or anything, I believe he would not be subject to the same kind of restrictions as the other players might be. So, there's a difference if he got jumped kind of, walking between training facilities, or if it was 3 a.m. in the middle of Temple Bar or something like that. I just I find it interesting that we've had absolutely no details come out about this at all from their side at all. But an unfortunate incident to happen on what is, I think, for 99% of it, been an incredibly positive response to the NFL in Dublin.
Yeah, I mean it is kind of a tricky one because the Gardaí, the Irish police, couldn't couldn't substantiate the report in any way, shape, or form, and they didn't have enough information to. They received no complaints, and they didn't have enough information to make it a formal thing. And yet, it does seem from the way that Steelers, in the sounding of their press release, they definitely thought something happened, and there is some report, apparently, of the police were at least willing to admit there was an individual who was treated and assessed by emergency services personnel at that time in that location. So it's all a bit murky. It sounds like it probably wasn't something did happen, but probably not a particularly major thing or something that nobody wanted to make a big deal out of. But it is
Yeah.
kind of strange that the information lockdown is kind of is making it hard to really get a sense of what happened and how bad it was.
Yeah. But no, overall, it's against a backdrop of, I think very successful weekend in Dublin for the NFL. We'll talk about the game when we get to the game reviews, but like, the number of Americans at it was huge. I think they were saying that it was a far greater proportion of Americans and internationals than there are at like the London games and so on. That like more than half the stadium were international travelers coming over to it rather than locals, which Jeez, I could have told you that when I tried to get tickets and we weren't able to get them. But yeah, no, I think the NFL were very happy. And apparently there was talk straight out of the gate about doing another one. That they're just like, yeah, this worked really well. Obviously, set up against a backdrop of the NFL looking to constantly expand internationally for growth, which is why we weren't really expecting there to be legs for a second game here, as the market captured by Ireland is largely covered by that captured by the UK. We're 5.5, 6 million people on this island versus 52 there versus, 50, 60 in France or whatever. Like, the idea that they would prioritize Ireland outside of it being a good destination and a good trip for the Americans to enjoy, that it wouldn't necessarily gel so much with the expanding markets ideology. Like the NFL has talked very openly about wanting to do Australia and Asia games and so on to open up those markets because they be substantially larger for them or we represent more substantial gains internationally for them than say a game in Ireland was. But no, like NFL's bigwigs were talking about it straight off the bat, and obviously the Chiefs talked about it beforehand, being interested in coming over and playing the next game. And yeah, just I think a positive weekend all round for Ireland and the NFL.
I mean, you would wonder the impact of obviously the college football thing that they kind of took that first move into Ireland and they got their week zero game established and it's been quite popular and obviously all the history of Irish Americans and people visiting their homeland. I mean, I think obviously the NFL sees a market potential in Ireland. It sees a way of making this a very big thing and maybe muscling college football out of the turf maybe in the long run. But certainly, it seems that they. I mean, obviously, American football has been. I mean, it hasn't been a big sport in Ireland for a long time. But as with the growth in the UK, there's been a consistent fan base here for 25, 30 years at the very least. And they obviously think it's big enough to build upon.
Yeah.
And certainly the players and the officials and everything seem to, kind of Skylar Thompson aside, seem to have a very good time here. So I think as a country we did well. I think we put our best foot forward, and definitely looks like we're going to get at least one more game down the line.
Yeah, which would be good fun. On the bit of news, we've got a bit of quarterback controversy,
The
Shan.
controversy.
Well, it is somewhat of a controversy given what the media response to Dillon Gabriel, the quarterback that was drafted 2 rounds ahead of their other rookie quarterback, getting the nod here. But yes, Dillon Gabriel has been announced as the Browns starter. He's going to be the 41st starting quarterback for the Browns since
Jesus.
1999, which is wow. That poor fella. You've seen pictures of the guy who goes to the Browns ones with the jersey that has all of the quarterbacks on it. Like that thing's gonna be very heavy at this stage with that level of embroidering. But I think it makes sense. I'll be talking about it in the dump off. But like this is a Browns team that's defense is quite top tier and their offense is just not at all at the races. And also realistically, as they careen wildly towards, a top five pick at the current pace, they probably need to figure out whether or not they've got a quarterback already or not.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot around the spot about just how bad the Browns' offense is, and given how good their defense is, it's a real hampering to this team actually being competitive. And as much as we all love Joe Flacco, I think his time has come and gone, and there was just no dynamism in that offense at all. Gabriel, I mean, it's hard to know is he any good or not. He is apparently, again, I said this when they traded away Kenny Pickett. You assume that means that they think Gabriel is better than Pickett, and we know they think he's better than Shedeur Sanders. So there's definitely somebody. There's a
Hmm.
bunch of people in the Browns back office that think this kid has got at least some potential. So
Yeah.
it's definitely worth having a go and look at him. And if it doesn't work out, then maybe they and their defense continues to keep them in games and keeps their record good. And Gabriel doesn't work out, and maybe they don't want to risk Shedeur Sanders. They can maybe try and pick up a veteran or something down the line. But I definitely think sticking to Flacco is they're not going to learn anything else from having him at this
No.
point.
No, this is gonna make sense. I think Dylan Gabriel, he looked good in the one preseason start he had, and then he looked a little bit less good when he came in second in the other game, if I recall. But yeah, like look, it's just to see if he can get a bit of spark going because if this defense plays to the level it's been playing, I don't think you need to put up a lot of points to be competitive in games. But we'll see. We had a trade this week, which is surprising. We're still 4 weeks out from the trade deadline. But the Browns have acquired tackle Cam Robinson from the Texans for a late round pick swap. All I can say is if if it's a lineman the Texans are happy to give away, you're fucking welcome to him. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, the story that came out obviously is that he's kind of fallen behind the rookie whose name I'm not going to try, Ursary. I'm not going to try and
yeah,
pronounce his first name. He'd fallen behind him in the left tackle thing. He's playing limited snaps. He was inactive in week 4. The Browns have had some injuries on the front line, people like Jack Conklin and Dewan Jones. So it makes sense for both the player and the teams to do this. Obviously, a little unorthodox to do it at this stage of the season, but it seems that the Browns needed someone to step in, maybe not as a permanent starter, but as an injury step in, and the Texans were happy to let him go. So yeah,
yeah.
I don't see a problem with this either way. And I think, especially given the Browns are notorious for financial mismanagement, apparently they're actually doing quite well here in terms of the amount of the salary they have to pay him because the
Yeah.
signing bonus and stuff covers an awful lot of it. So I think they're doing good business on top of it as well.
Yeah, so we'll see now. At least, at least it's not costing them much, but yeah, we'll see whether or not it works out for them. We have quite a lot of injuries to go through this week, so a couple of big important season-ending ones. Some of this we will discuss during the games because most of this happened during the games. But Ravens Pro Bowl defensive tackle Matabike is now out for the season due to that neck injury that he received. So he's gone now, which is obviously a huge knock to a defense that's already not looking great. We'll delve into that a little bit in the games. But to compound problems, Roquan Smith, their cornerback, is going to be out for a few weeks with an ankle injury. Marlon Humphreys, their other cornerback, is also going to be out for a few weeks. And Jaxson was taken out of the game and wasn't. We don't have any details on his injury currently, but we do know that the head coach came out and said that even if the game was still competitive at that point, he wouldn't have been able to go back in. So they're being very closed doors on what happened to Jackson, but that's a bit concerning. So Baltimore overall, that defense is looking absolutely battered. They do have the benefit of, the AFC North not looking like world beaters at the moment, so a slow start isn't going to kill them, but not 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 a good couple of weeks now for the Ravens, particularly in injury terms.
No, I mean, especially given how much they hyped up this season, that they've been, top end of the AFC for a very long time, and this was going to be a season where they were expecting to make an AFC Championship or a Super Bowl if things fell their way, and it's just not working out that way at all. And the defense, as we'll talk about, especially looks to be in a bit of a mess. So to lose 3 star players in the space of a week from a defense that's already struggling against elite teams, I would be very worried about the Ravens. And yeah, and you say the division isn't sparkling because the Bengals are not having a great season, but I mean the Steelers are 3-1 and they're trundling along, and there's nothing to expect that the Steelers won't end up with 10 or 11 wins, which means that the Ravens they're going to have to start winning games soon
Oh God, yeah.
if they want to be competitive. And if Lamar Jackson is anyway bad injured, I mean I think their season is screwed basically,
No, no, definitely.
which is a shame given how talented that team is. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely some sort of crisis brewing in Baltimore.
There is. Two top wide receivers gone for the season. Malik Neighbors has torn his ACL and he's gone for the season, coming after planting his leg on a play that we will be discussing in the game review. But basically, yeah, Mike, uh, not a great way to start the Jackson Dart era by losing their top weapon on offense or their top receiver at any rate. And Tyreek Hill is gone for the season as well. He was in getting surgery, so he took a very gruesome looking tackle. I don't know if you saw this one, Sean.
No, I haven't seen the video yet.
I
No.
advise do not go and see it. Because initially I was like, oh, that just looks like a normal tackle.
Oh
Like, I don't
no.
know what's wrong. And then I was like, oh, his foot is pointing the wrong way. Yeah, so basically he dislocated his knee, it twisted, and I think he's basically torn everything in his leg. Um, so it is
And
not good.
this is a guy who's 31 and his game is built almost entirely around speed. I mean, it's not,
No.
and he's already he's known as being a bit of trouble. So teams are going to have to, if say he gets at the end of his Dolphins contract and he's looking around for someone else. I mean,
I think this is the end of his time in Miami, to be honest. I think they
yeah,
can cut him now and spread the cap hit because, like, realistically. it'll be a stretch, I would say, to have him back to full strength at the start of the season. They were already looking at trading him this season. I think he was probably top of many people's to be traded by the deadline guys, and yeah, I think it's just a nail in the coffin of a Miami team that got the win this week, but yeah, it's not great. They have the young fella, is it Washington? Coming up behind him, that he was the top waiver wire target for most people in their fantasy footballs this week. But yeah, so we'll see. But not great. So that's two big ones, and then we got a couple of other injuries. So Jets running back Brennan Allen's going to land on injured reserve with a sprained MCL, so he'll be out for at least 4 weeks. Vikings right tackle Brian O'Neill is week to week with an MCL sprain, and the Chargers' offensive woes on the line continue. Their right tackle turned left tackle Joe Alt has a high ankle sprain, is expected to be out for a couple of weeks. This is having already lost their left tackle and having Joe Alt fill in there. So this is not great for any of those. At least these guys will be coming back, but yeah, a bit of a worry for them. Although the Jets, who knows, he did fumble. I'd not see it as the world's biggest loss. Other bits of news: the NFL have announced a three-game run in Rio de Janeiro over the next 5 years, starting in 2026. So we're going to see more. Rio games coming down the line, so that'll be fun. And the halftime show has been announced for Super Bowl, so it's not Taylor Swift as many people expected it to be, and it's not, thank the Lord, a big collection of different new age country singers, which was the other one that was Better's favorite. Bad Bunny is going to be the Super Bowl halftime show. Now, Sean, you're a man of a certain age. Do you know who Bad Bunny is?
It's a name that I am vaguely aware of, but I could not name a single song,
Oh.
and I could not tell you anything about this guy.
You don't know the
Uh,
king of Latin trap, no?
all I know is that the MAGA guys really seem to hate him, which presumably means he's brown
Yes, yes,
and
he is. He's very much, yes.
and is yeah sings about the problems of people who are not white or something. I don't know. It's yeah. It seems like it's. I mean, it's weird. You got firstly the whole Taylor Swift thing, the various hints that she was going to do it, and then apparently the negotiations fell down, or they just couldn't meet her terms, or whatever it was. And so this guy is the backup, and all it seems to have happened is that it's all I'm seeing in my social media feeds is well, I'm not seeing the negative traction from right wingers. I'm seeing the left wing response to the right wing negativity to him. So, I mean, it's America. You can't do anything in America anymore without causing controversy, I guess. But yeah, it's presumably a pretty big stage for this guy, given I have no idea who he is.
He's
Um,
massive. He is actually like incredibly famous and very big. But yeah, so you may have seen him rather than heard him actually. So he's been doing a few bits of acting and stuff. He's been on Saturday Night Live once or twice. He was in the Happy Gilmore 2, if you happen to see that. He
I haven't.
was actually pretty decent comic timing on the guy as well. But yeah, he's meant to have some very good like a very good live show. I know one or two of his songs, but I don't know a huge amount of them. But that should be interesting enough anyway. At any rate, kind of get to learn some new tunes, I suppose, rather than just going back through a back catalogue or whatnot. But yeah, no, I think it should be fun. And sure, look, if it pisses off the right people, no harm to it, Sean. No harm at all. On that lovely note, I suppose we'll swing over and take a look at the games from last week. So, Sean, they say it's like kissing your sister. It just doesn't feel right. A tie of all things. Green Bay at Dallas. I don't have a sister, so I wouldn't know. 40-40 in overtime. The poor American sportscasters who were up at 9 a.m. to cover the Irish game that then had the Sunday night football go the full extra 45 minutes to an hour of extra time, all for to end in a tie. Tell us about this Micah Parsons revenge game.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give credit to the Cowboys. I mean, they've come into this season with a very clearly stated goal. I mean, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. They're probably not going to win their division. They might not even make the playoffs, but god damn it, they've gone out of their way to try to produce the stupidest game in NFL history. And they tried 2 weeks ago with the Giants with that 40-37 game where they continued to let the Giants back into it and it went to overtime and people went, "Yeah, that's pretty stupid. It's not the stupidest game in NFL history." And the Cowboys went, "Ah, we'll go one better. How about the elusive and incredibly improbable 40-40 tie?" I mean, just looking
Scoregami.
just looking at the score when I woke up on Monday morning, I went, "Oh my God, what the hell was this? The stupidest game ever." Like, how do you have a game which is 37-37 at the end of regulation, so the offenses are lighting it up, and then all that happens in overtime is the two teams trade field goals, and the Cowboys basically tried to milk the clock in overtime, which was an interesting strategy, but really just a bizarre game. Dallas become the first team in NFL history to score 40 points and have no turnovers and yet not win the game. That has happened 301 times. That has happened in NFL history, and 300 of those 301 times a team has gone on to win. I mean, it's just the most bizarre thing, and you must. I have a little bit of sympathy for Dak Prescott because he is playing out of his skin at the moment. He really lit it up in this one. 319 yards, three passing touchdowns, and a rush touchdown. There was a one particular pass on social media, 2nd and 7, which he did. Was one of those really scramble, make a ridiculous throw kinds of things, and he's playing at an MVP level. It just happens that the entire rest of the team around him are utter garbage. On the other side, I mean, Jordan Love had also had a similarly good game. He had 337 and three touchdowns and a couple of nice moves. But the really big thing here is that the defenses obviously were absolutely god awful, and particularly this Packers defense, who we're talking up as being the best defense in the league, probably gives up 40 points in a game, despite the fact that Michael Parsons did get a sack on his return to Arlington. So it's really hard to know. This is one of these games that kind of resists analysis. You can kind of talk about what happened, and then afterwards go, well, I don't really understand that. I mean, who had good games? Good games for George Pickens, 134, two touchdowns. Javonte Williams had 100 all-purpose yards. Josh Jacobs had about 160 yards combined and two touchdowns on the ground. Romeo Dobbs had three touchdowns, but a lot, it's, all those players can have happy at their performance. Everyone else needs to really have a very hard look at themselves and as to what goes on here. The highest, either the highest or second highest tie, depending on
Second
the sources
highest, second
that I've
highest.
seen. In terms of this, but honestly, all I can say about this game, at the end of it, is let us never speak of it again. I mean, this was a disgrace to professional sports. And again, I mean, I'm a soccer fan. I love a good draw, but it's just not American. It's just fundamentally un-American. And I've been on this podcast before. I think the very first thing I said on this podcast, maybe 5 years ago, was that ties are fundamentally un-American and should be abolished. And the punishment should be, if your game ends in a tie, both the teams get losses because they're not winners. So in American terms, they must be losers. And that's all I have to say about this disgrace of a game.
Fair enough. And to be honest, the thing to top it off, 'cause I think you covered most of it, was that like both teams kind of tried to lose this game at points. Like, look, from the Dallas side, I think they did well, but I don't think, their big trade acquisition, Parsons actually did a huge amount in this. You mentioned he gets that sack at the end, and it kind of, it's good, but like he's largely invisible for most of this game in a game where like we saw in the against the Browns last week what a good defense and what good pass rush can do to this Green Bay team, and it just wasn't there, and it was surprising. But the bit that I couldn't get over was Green Bay had to kick their field goal to tie the game with half a second really left on the clock because they nearly ran out of time, and that was horrendous mismanagement. Now, I'd love to know whether or not that was a bad play call that was going to take too long to develop and they just shouldn't have called it, or if that was a decision by Love to like wait until his third read instead or something like that. But like, God, like, could you imagine the absolute battering we'd be giving them if in field goal range they took half a second too long on the final play and lost the game that way after the full 15 minutes of overtime? This was sloppy. Green Bay are not looking quite as dominant as they once did. Dallas, I gotta say, I know they're a dumbass team. I think they're just so much fun to watch at the moment. I think they're very exciting. I was impressed they were managing to do this without CeeDee Lamb as well. I think George Pickens stepped up in a big way. Could be looking at getting himself a nice payday again down the line if he can keep up level of play at this level. But yeah, look, it was a fun game. It doesn't feel quite right. It's very hard to analyze anything out of it. It was just utter madness. Next up, Minnesota Pittsburgh. This was the Dublin game, 21-24. Pittsburgh take the hometown win in Dublin with a two-touchdown game for Gainwell, and just a lot of DK Metcalf in this. A big 80-yard touchdown for him when they get out to an early lead, and they kind of rest on their laurels a little bit and just let the Vikings slip back into this game, because going into half, we were looking at what, 6-14, end of the third quarter 6-21. Like, this game was in the books. Start of the fourth quarter, they put in a field goal, 6-24. Like, you know, right, guys, let's get out ahead of the crowds and start warming up the car here. But then, their defense just completely falls apart. So 9 play, 70-yard touchdown drive, followed by a turnover on downs, followed by a 7 play, 99-yard touchdown drive, followed by a punt, followed by an unfortunate turnover of downs for the Vikings. So obviously there was some penalties on that with a delay of game and everything. It just didn't really work out for them. But we got a very exciting game. We got back and forth. We got controversial calls. We got niche rules, particularly the punch out fumble recovery six that ended up coming back because the receiver managed to put their leg out of bounds and touch the ball, which is a rule I had not seen since, I think, a very glitchy game of Madden 15 years ago. Yeah, like, Rodgers looked efficient, 18 to 22, 200 yards and a touchdown. Wentz was messy but kind of exciting in this one, 350 yards, 2 touchdowns, but threw the 2 interceptions as well, and that was the difference in the end. The Steelers defense looked very dominant early. They had 6 sacks in this game, but they just kind of tired out. And like we said, they're a bit older. Maybe they don't quite have it left in the tank to do the kind of things they would have done 2 years ago or whatever. But I think it was a solid performance out of them. The one thing that I noticed was that Pittsburgh were very good at identifying exactly what bits of the Minnesota defense were not, like, ready for what they wanted to play, and then just spam routes onto that. So there was this play they used where they put DK Metcalf kind of almost in the tight end position, the third receiver in tight to the line, and just ran him on a quick slant, and he caught the ball and he got 9 yards and said, "Oh, that worked. We'll just run that play again." So they, changed the alignment of the outside receivers, but just again motioned him to the inside, just ran him on a quick slant, and Minnesota just like, "Oh shit, like, we don't have a linebacker in that space at all." And then they started putting a linebacker in that space, so then they just stopped doing it and then went back to it after the linebacker went away again. It was a very good analytical, we know we probably don't have the horses to beat this entire Minnesota defense, so let's just play matchups and let's just find gaps. And I thought it was great. And then I think they nearly shit the bed in the end because they got a little bit full of themselves and thought, sure, we've got this in the bag, we don't need to do it anymore. A very exciting game. Everyone in Dublin had a good time. I think a good result in it. Yeah, just genuinely very impressed, particularly given, like, I was kind of laughing beforehand saying, well, we attended this game last year because we saw Minnesota Jets when Aaron Rodgers was at the Jets, and that was not a great game. This was a much better game than that one was. I think, yeah, particularly the rally from Minnesota at the end really made it for me. But yeah, very happy with that one overall.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's two ways you can think about this: the occasion of being in Dublin, and we talked a bit about that. But the game itself, I thought was it's interesting. I'm actually really beginning to find a little bit of, if not love, then certainly like in my heart for the Aaron Rodgers Steelers. His gap years in the Jets are behind him, and he's beginning to find, I think, a little bit of his groove. He definitely seems happier in Pittsburgh. He seems to be surrounded by people he respects a bit more than he respected the people in New York. So I mean, really efficient here, and it kind of felt a little bit like the old Rodgers, that he was just getting down the field. He wasn't making any mistakes. Every decision he was making, generally speaking, was the right one, and he would always find that way to get things advanced. So I think, I mean, we've always talked about this Tomlin Steelers thing as this team trapped perennially in the 9-8 kind of hell, because in the NFL, if you're trapped at 9-8, you can't really go up or down. But I wonder. I mean, I don't think they're a championship team or anything, but I do think they are building something behind Rodgers that is a little bit more interesting than your average Steelers unit. Now the defense, as you say, does have a little bit of legginess in it terms of age. They were really good early on here, but they didn't really handle things. And I think Wentz was there for the taking, and they took him quite early on, but they kind of let him get back into his groove a little bit. I mean, they allowed him to drive them. Wentz to get on a 99-yard drive near the end of the fourth quarter. But so, I mean, I think there's a little bit of worry there in terms of the season goes on. Are they going to be able to rely on those veterans as much as possible? But I think definitely on the offensive side, there is something cooking in Pittsburgh that it's at least interesting to watch in a way that say last year's Steelers were not particularly interesting to watch offensively. In terms of the Vikings, it's so hard to really know what level the Vikings are at because I mean, in the absence of McCarthy, Wentz obviously, he's a long way from that one season when he was good, and he certainly, there were opportunities in this game that he didn't really fully take, and it feels like people like Justin Jefferson, for example, really do need maybe a better quarterback to work from. I mean, with McCarthy injured, you really have to think why they let Sam Darnold go because he was at least clicking in this unit and they were getting what they needed offensively. On the defensive side, I mean, they're supposed to be one of the best defenses, and Brian Flores is a great coach. But as you say, it kind of feels like they're maybe getting figured out a little bit, or at least they have certain weaknesses that can be exposed. And the problem with the Vikings is if their offense isn't fantastic and their defense isn't fantastic, then they're just a very mediocre team. A very mediocre team, by the way, who is trapped in quite a good division. And it's not inconceivable this team could finish bottom of their division if they don't get things clicking. It kind of feels like we're regressing back to the older Vikings where they're just like incredibly boring and uninteresting, and you can forget about them after week 10 or whatever because there's not going to be a major factor in the league. So I come out of this, even though it was only a 3-point game in the end, I come out of this game being like, Steelers, yep, there's something here. I want to see how this evolves, and I'm willing to, as much as I, don't have an awful lot of time for Aaron Rodgers as a human being, as a quarterback, I'd certainly, watch him for a few hours every Sunday. And for the Vikings, what are they and where are they going?
Yeah. And does
Continues to be the question.
does quarterback play get better when JJ McCarthy comes back? Because that's not what I saw in
Yeah,
the games that he
not
played.
necessarily.
Like,
Yeah.
who knows? Next up, two one and two teams that were, I'd say probably surprising to be 1 and 2 at this stage, but one of them has to go 1 and 3. Sean, Baltimore, Kansas City, 20-37.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these teams have records that don't quite match their talent level. KC are 2-2 now after this 37-20 win over the Ravens. Ravens fall to 1-3, and they've both had quite difficult starts to the season in terms of the games that they've faced. So it's maybe not 100% accurate, but for the Ravens in particular, I would be starting to get a little bit worried because this is the third time they've lost the season and the third time they've lost to an elite competition. The third time they've face teams that are supposedly around their level, the Bills, the Lions, the Chiefs, and the third time they come up short. And in each of those times, they've shipped, I mean, at least, I think this 37 points is actually the lowest figure that they've given up points-wise to those in those three games. So you would start to be worried about this defense, which is supposed to be a decent part of this unit, although even if it's not as good as it was, say, 2 or 3 years ago, it's supposed to still be, at the Baltimore level, which is really quite good. And they have a lot of star players back there. And compounding on top of the injuries that we talked about, there's a lot of real problems there. So Baltimore, a little bit of crisis going on. Defense in particular. For Kansas City, though, I mean, it does kind of feel like this was the game where finally the shackles came off and that they found his groove. And I guess the Chiefs haters were always worried this kind of thing would happen, that Mahomes would and Reed would figure out how the offense worked. They'd find their players and things would open up. And I think Xavier Worthy's return, he had 121 all-purpose yards, really helped them open up the offense. But what was really fascinating to me is that the variety of and depth of what was going on. I mean, each of Mahomes' 4 touchdowns was to a different guy. I mean, Pacheco, Juju, Tyquan Thornton, Hollywood Brown. These are not marquee names, but they were getting involved in a big way. They were perfect on fourth down conversions. Reed was
Well,
really
one of them is called Marquise. Like,
it's true. It's true. And he does call himself Hollywood, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a little bit of an exaggeration. But no, I mean Chiefs again, perfect on fourth down. I think the play calling and fourth down stuff was really good. It really felt like this was the Chiefs. They were completely, I felt, in control of this game mostly. The Ravens were on their tails for a while, but they never ever felt like they were going to fall apart. They got more yardage, they controlled the tempo, they capitalized on their turnovers. They gave Jackson a pretty difficult game. They sacked him a lot, applied consistent pressure. It just really wasn't working for the Ravens, and a lot of that had to do with the Chiefs were kind of just clicking on both sides of the ball. So if I'm a Chiefs fan and you are a Chiefs fan, I would be saying, okay, early season jitters, the bad, the sort of bad loss of the Chargers kind of feels a little bit out the window. This team is now coming together, and I'd be happy with it. The Ravens, though, ooh, Ravens, I'd be a little bit worried. Obviously, the injuries are not going to help them as they go forward, but I mean, more worrying is the fact that the defense seems to be in bits, but the offense doesn't quite, despite its level of talent, doesn't seem to be quite where it needs to be. Lamar had a pretty mediocre day. I mean, 14 of 20 in his passing, 147 yards, 48 rushing yards. He had a touchdown, but he had an interception and he had a fumble. And he went out in the third quarter with an injury. It didn't really look like it was going anywhere, even when he was playing. Justice Hill had a very good game, two touchdowns, 147 yards, all purpose. He was the only Baltimore player that really impressed. I mean, Derrick Henry was kind of kept quiet by his standards. They have an awful lot of receiving talent that didn't really get all that much involved in this game, and it just never felt like the Ravens were competitive at this level that they should be. They should be able to compete at this level. But week one Bills, okay, they should have won that game. They let slip. Week two Lions, they were competitive, but they never were really ahead in that game. The Lions always felt that step ahead, and now this one, the Chiefs game, feels like the next step beyond that. The Chiefs comfortably kept the Ravens at arm's length. So
Yeah.
definitely work to do for John Harbaugh going forward because the Ravens are in a little bit of trouble if they don't turn this around. But the Chiefs, I mean, I'd be very happy with the Chiefs are going. I think they're looking quite good, and the offense has finally found its groove.
Oh yeah. Like this is 37 to 13 in the fourth quarter. Like the thing that impressed me most in this was yeah, the offense looked better. That's good. I think you can kind of see exactly why, Worthy going out early in that first game. This is more of what the offense was meant to look like, and they're now sitting looking like this 2 weeks ago until Rice comes back, so that's always a positive. But the one that got me was more to do with like the defense just looked really good in this game. They seemed to know what they were doing. Drew Tranquil had just a monster of a day. He was just tearing all around the place. He recovered that fumble, 7 tackles in this game. It was great. Karlaftis was in the backfield wrecking shop all the time. It was impressive. I still think Chris Jones is not quite hitting home at the moment. He does still look a little bit slower than he was. It was like he had two hits on the quarterback and he did bat down a pass and everything, but like you want that leader to be big, but just the defense overall was looking great. Like, young quarterbacks and stuff were stepping up and playing well. I think it just worked very, very, very well for them, and they just looked in control. So yeah, like if this is what it looks like, and more reinforcements are on the way, it's a very, very positive step because, like I said, like it's more the Ravens sitting at 13 points in the fourth quarter is a bigger thing for me even than the 37 because we've been saying this Baltimore defense isn't what it was, so we can probably put an asterisk on that 37, but the stopping them from moving the ball, being able to stop Derrick Henry and these weapons, chasing down Lamar, like that kind of stuff is what kind of gets me a bit excited for what this team could do. So we'll see how they go after this. Next up, Indianapolis at the Rams. This was my pick of the week going in. 20-27. The Rams win this one. An 88-yard touchdown pass from Stafford to Atwell late in the fourth quarter breaks a tie as the Rams kind of grind out a win. Stafford had 375 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. It was quite an impressive performance. The big one for me when I was looking at this was like, I'm excited for this Colts team. I wanted to see them, do well and basically not poop the bed. And Jesus, like they did very well in this game. Like, they came out firing, they got ahead, they were leading till just before the halftime. They came back out of halftime, and their defense stepped up. It was a little bit of a scrappy one, punt, fumble, punt, 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 and then they scored and they pulled ahead, and then LA fumbled. But this is the thing, they just didn't quite capitalize on moments like, whenever LA fumbled there, uh, you need to put the pressure on, not have four plays and kick a field goal. You need to keep piling it on, and they just weren't able to quite get there. Albeit, still exciting. Danny Dimes, 262 yards and a touchdown, but he threw two interceptions to Cameron Curl. Like, this is the first time. I think those are their first interceptions of the year, I think, as well for him. But just scrappy bits. Mitchell fumbling on the goal line and penalties like that. But yeah, like 80 Mitchell, this will be remembered as the 80 Mitchell game, right? Like, hopefully it can be a learning a learning experience for the young man. Like, it's only a second year and so on, but 80 Mitchell cost them 14 points in this game. Like, he was clean through into the end zone, moved. He'll say he moved the ball for ball security. He did in his fucking hole. He moved the ball to try and do a showboat into the end zone, extended. Look at me, I'm great. Fumbles the ball through the back of the end zone. That means it's a turnover, so they lose 7 points from that. He was also the reason that they missed out on a very good deep play later on as well, because he got called for offensive pass interference down near the line and negated. I think it was an 80-yard gain. Like, this was a tough game for him, but this is two good teams coming out swinging at each other. I was impressed particularly with Danny Dimes, because this is the type of defense that would traditionally have caused him utter panic. Like, he took two sacks in this game, and like I said, he threw two interceptions. So he was by no means perfect, but like, this is a very good pass rush, and we saw the defensive back step up, and he was still able to get it going. They boxed in Jonathan Taylor a fair bit, like he was sub 5 yards per carry. That doesn't sound, the worst, but given how Jonathan Taylor's been playing this year, that's a very impressive job. They also, like, he didn't have a run longer than 12 yards. Like, that's an impressive job by this Rams defense in boxing them in. And on the other side, Indianapolis's defense did a good job as well, causing hassle. They got three sacks in this game. They didn't get any takeaways on it. Obviously there was the fumble by Kyron Williams, but this was two not perfect but very exciting teams who are both now solidly in my head in this playoff hunt, and could be competitors if they could keep themselves going. The Rams need to, avoid some injuries. They need to maybe brush up a few bits. Their offense was a little bit sloppy here and there, but overall a very solid unit with a very exciting defense. Indianapolis, they've got the ability there. I think, a bit more experience, a bit more betting into the system, maybe having a little bit more trust in the receivers downfield. Like I said, there are five or six ways. Like, I hate the terminology, but if you play this game 100 times, I think Indianapolis win it like 80 plus of those. Like, you know, Adonai Mitchell doesn't fumble the ball. Adonai Mitchell doesn't, doesn't have the offensive uh, holding or offensive interference, and but Indianapolis could be on 34 points in this game. That probably changes how guys play the rest of the game and so on. But like, this was not a mismatch. This was two competitive playoff level teams going at each other, and I'm here for it. I'm super pumped. Yeah, just think it was great. This was overall a very good week for games until we get to the dump off later. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought obviously, I mean, this game's going to tell us an awful lot about where these two teams were. The Rams have had a pretty good start to the season, and they do kind of look like they are solid playoff team. They might even win their division. They look like they might be the best team in their division, and they haven't. The Stafford still seems to be Matt Stafford. He's out there. Having good games back, constantly. He seems to bring out the best in his wide receivers. Puka Nakua, had a really good game here. Atwell was had only one catch, but a very important one. And the defense, which was always the worry for the Rams coming into the season, turns out to be quite good. And they made key moves down the stretch. They forced errors when they had to. So the Rams look like a very good team, and they certainly will be competitive in the playoffs. But the Colts also, I mean, we were very down on the Colts coming into the season, and every week they've slowly gotten a little bit better. This was probably the first time they haven't quite hit what they needed to do. I mean, Danny Dimes, a couple of mistakes, the Mitchell fumble obviously as well. They had a lot of penalties that kind of pulled them back. They're certainly better than we thought they would be. I'm maybe not as up on them as you are. I don't know if they really are the finished package yet. They're probably there's a decent chance they're the best team in their division, but that isn't saying much. And they've got to cut out the mistakes. If they This is the thing, you want to be competitive at this kind of level, and this is a playoff level kind of game they're in. You got to cut out the mistakes, and you got to execute, and you got to finalize and finish off good situations, and they just didn't do that. But it's better. It's better that they're losing games because of mistakes than they're losing games because they're just not good enough. I mean, that's a very big progression from where we thought the Colts would be. So that's good in their sense. But certainly a little bit of a reality check about how difficult it is to win games at this level of the NFL versus, say, beating up the Dolphins or whatever. But yeah, both these teams look pretty good. Maybe not perfect teams. The Rams look a little bit better than the Colts and a little bit more potential in them. But they're both, I think, deservedly 3-1 teams, and it's going to be interesting to see how they evolve as the season goes on.
And finally, we have the Chargers taking on the New York Giants, 18 to 21. I'd say probably one of the big upsets of the week. We got to see Jackson Dart in this one. How do you look, Sean?
Well, aside from looking exactly like the stereotypical cocky '80s movie villain, he was pretty. He was decent. I mean, the numbers aren't overly flattering. Only 111 yards and the one touchdown, but he was there finding the little bit extra that they needed to win, and especially once they lost neighbors. Their offense, the kind of the biggest part of their offense, kind of fell away. He was there. He was reliable. He was consistent. He was a lot of things that Russell Wilson can't be relied upon to be anymore. And him and Scatterbo, I was really like Scatterbo as a running back. I think they do have a little bit of something interesting there. And I think this kind of win will solidify Dart as the starting QB for a while at least. So we'll have some time to see if he's really up to scratch. I don't know if the jury is quite I don't quite know enough about him. He definitely he's doing things that he's doing better than some rookies are doing in kind of classic situations. Like poise under pressure is a big problem for rookies, and Dart seems that he doesn't know to do that. He seems to have a good sense of game tempo and stuff like that. So they have it. But I mean, the real story for me in this game is not that the Giants finally might have a decent quarterback to pull them through this what will probably still be a quite forgettable season. It's that the Chargers just cannot go more than 4 weeks without charging up the place. I mean, this season has been going so well for them. They've really looked like that they're clicking into gear. They had the big win against the Chiefs. They had kind of two other solid victories, albeit not particularly spectacular. And here they were coming to a team that not particularly highly rated, and a moment to put down a statement, and they were just bad. I mean, there's no other word to describe the Chargers than they were absolutely bad. Herbert threw two interceptions. The team had a combined 107 yards worth of penalties. Joe Alt's injury completely destroyed the O-line's ability to protect the quarterback. They gave up 22 pressures. So offensively, it was just a mess. I mean, Omario Hampton, he had 128 yards on the ground and a touchdown, but 37 receiving. So he had his first good game. But there was just an awful lot of weird decision making where rather than try to lead into the run game, which is supposed to be the Jim Harbaugh thing, they tried to turn towards a spluttering pass game too much, and it just wasn't working, and they just couldn't get the ball down the field at any points, and they really allowed the Giants defense to be the guy. Derek Dexter Lawrence got a first career interception. Drew Phillips got a big interception later on. A lot of a lot of pressures, a lot of sacks. Herbert just never looked in rhythm. But the Chargers offense let the Giants defense bully them to a certain extent, and that became very difficult for them to get anything going after that. But it may be even more worrying for the Chargers is this defense. I mean, they were playing against a team that is not particularly good on the offensive side, who had a rookie quarterback in his first game. Their star wide receiver goes down injury, and they just couldn't at key moments just could not get them off the field. Like they'd gotten themselves into a position where they were only 3 points down. They just needed to stop the Giants, get the ball back, and give themselves a chance, and they just couldn't get this Giants team off the field at the end, and that is a big failure, right? That is a really worrying aspect of this is how much these Charger team. This was a very winnable game, but the Chargers just couldn't find a way to do it. They just couldn't find a way to actually win this game because we've talked about their Chargerness. For years now, there's something just fundamental in the Chargers' DNA, which means that they will occasionally have games like this where they just do not perform. And now you can maybe blame the travel and obviously the LA to New York for what for them is a 10 a.m. kickoff game is, I mean, it's a brutal place to be, and the record in general speaks to how difficult it is. But the Rams did basically the same thing last week, and they almost beat the Eagles. So I mean, there definitely are levels to this, and you definitely can be better prepared for these kinds of games. And the Chargers just were not. It just was just not working. And all of that good work and all those good vibes of the first 3 weeks of the season just kind of ebbs away. And we're left asking ourselves is, are the Chargers actually good, or did they just happen to, have one big win and then beat up to, less good teams after that? I just don't know. I think the Chargers are better than this one game, but the fact that this game happens kind of means in the back of my head, and I wonder in the back of every Charger fans and players' head, is this game can happen again at some point during the season. You just can't trust a team like the Chargers because they are always capable of having a performance like this, and they got punished for it.
Yeah. Look, I've been on record from the get-go saying I think that the Chargers are good but not great. I think we can see the cracks starting to appear here with, it's going to be hard when you're out two tackles, like your two starting tackles are gone. That's going to be a problem, particularly against a Giants line that is probably the strength of that defense, and that's going to be a problem. I think what we will see from the Chargers is they might lean on the run game a little more. We saw a breakout from Omarion Hampton in this game. He played very well for them, and they were finding great success on the ground, and particularly if they need to alleviate some pressure coming on to the quarterback, that might be the way to do it. Because like Marion Hampton, what 128 yards on the ground, averaging more than 10 yards a carry with a touchdown. And then he also caught 5 balls for 37 yards as well. Like, I would imagine we're going to see a lot of leaning on him to try and get them through it from this point onwards and just kind of, you know, steady the ship. Like, it is the thing that kind of baffles me when I look at this game script because, like, you know, they're down by 3 for the longest part of this game. Like they're only down by 11 at the tail end of the third quarter, and even then they're coming back. I don't know how you're in that position looking at a running back who's averaging 10 yards a carry, and even take out his long run out of that, he's still over 5 yards a carry, and you're not just going, yeah, I think we should. No, no, I think we should cap him at 12 carries. I don't think we should use him anymore. I don't think that. Like, obviously, that's what you should be doing more of in that spot. So I expect, and I know some of this is an ideological thing. They talked all the offseason about how, oh, we're going to get Herbert to the Hall of Fame and we're going to be passing. Don't you worry about that. Maybe sprinkle a little bit more running in there. Like, I know they didn't have a huge amount of snaps go around, but like, and you're finding that much success on the ground, lean into it, I would say. For the Giants side, exciting for Dart. He does look like he's kind of got a bit of the it factor for a quarterback. Like he's got the swagger. There was a lot of people kind of going. I think his stats are something that people have drawn a comparison to Tim Tebow for because I think he's the first one to do like 50 yards rushing, a rushing touchdown, and a passing touchdown in his first game or something. But like I don't know. Like you said, he does kind of look like a badder guy. Like I'd be more worried about like Johnny football style comparisons coming into him than I would be Tim Tebow. But they seem to have something there. I think he needs to protect himself when he's running. He was quite dangerous in this game at times. But yeah, look for the Giants. This is a small crack of light opening up, albeit depends on whether you're a Giants fan who likes Brian Daboll or not, I suppose. As we say though, every week all games are important, just some are less important, and those games we put in the dump off. So let's have a look at this week. Washington Atlanta 27-34. Atlanta beat a depleted Commanders reasonably comfortably behind a good day for Michael Penix. He went for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Bijan Robinson continues to just be incredible, 181 yards and a touchdown all-purpose. London went over 100. Kyle Pitts did okay as well. Mariota was, held back this time, 156, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He had flashes in it, and Washington did make it kind of close midway through with a Debo touchdown and a 2-point conversion, but the Washington D just couldn't slow them down, and Atlanta were able to take it home. Philly at Tampa Bay next, 31-25. Hurts went for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns in yet another kind of underwhelming performance from their offense. They got off to a fast start. They were 24-6 up in the first half, but then absolutely nothing in the second half. Let the Bucks sneak back into it with impressive drives from Baker. He went for 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, with Irving getting 165 and a touchdown all-purpose, which is nice to see because I think he had a fumble early on as well, which was a problem, and Abuka went over 100 and got a touchdown. Tampa Bay get 2 bites at the final drive, but Baker throws an interception and then they fail on a 4th down conversion. Lets Philly get to stay on here. If I remember correctly, Philly had something like a net 5 yards across 8 possessions in the second half. It was worrying. I know they're winning. I know that it's going to keep them happy. They've got discontent in the locker room with AJ Brown. I wonder about this Philly team, if we're coming close to starting to see the cracks really kind of cement into proper fissures. Jacksonville at San Fran, 26-21. A friend of the colleague, Aina, is very happy and was contemplating texting all of his 49ers fans that he knows, as he's a fair weather Jags fan. The Jags defense.
The Jags.
Yeah, I know he doesn't get to
Fair-weather
text
fan.
people very often. He kind of when he got into American football, he kind of picked the Jags because they were at that point where people were like, oh, maybe they could be good, you know. They were in the AFC Championship game a few years back, and now they got this young quarterback that everyone thinks is hot shit. Now maybe they don't, and maybe he hopped on at the wrong time. But Jags defense might be for real. 4 turnover day. I think every single game so far they've had at least 3 turnovers, which can't continue. I cannot imagine that's going to continue, but it's very impressive. Lawrence, very bland, 174 yards and a touchdown, controls the tempo well, and Etienne on the ground, 124 yards and a touchdown, grinds it up. Purdy on the other side, 209 yards and 2 touchdowns, puts up good numbers, but he has a lot of mistakes in this game. There's 2 interceptions, there's a strip sack fumble on the final drive to kind of end it. He was quite inaccurate in this one as well, only 22 of 38, so it was all quite costly. Now, the machine runs through CMC, and he had 141 all-purpose yards, which is, what kept them in this game. But realistically, San Fran are, they're feeling the injuries that they have. There was some concerning statements about, I believe Purdy was on the phone to management afterwards saying that his toe is sore again, so who knows what's going to happen there. But for Jacksonville, a good win that kind of maybe puts them a little bit more on solid ground, because it was not starting well for the new regime there. Seattle at Arizona, 23-20. Myers 52-yard field goal as time expired rescues a win for Seattle after they let a 14-point lead slip in the last 6 minutes. Darnold 242 and a touchdown. Kind of kept the tempo going early on. I controlled the game a lot. Walker on the ground, 109 yards. Sorry, that was all purpose. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, 90 yards all purpose, kind of allowed them to dictate the way this game was going, and the defense was really getting up in Kyler's face, who had 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. That will be said that one of those interceptions, we can't really blame him. We'll have to blame Marvin Harris Jr. for that one. Kyler found his groove late in this game, but Connor meant the run not being there meant the run game was going to be weak. Like, only 48 yards of their rush attack was not Kyler Murray, which is not the way to sustainably do this. Like, figure out, if Trey Benson's your guy, Trey Benson's your guy. If you need to go and find someone, there's 4 weeks left to be able to trade for them. The defense couldn't stop them on the last drive, and they'll feel like it got away from them, but also just play for more than a quarter, Arizona, and you might stand a chance in some of these games. Chicago at Vegas, 25-24. Boy, this was close. Bears win a close back and forth game with 4 lead changes through a swift TD and a blocked Carlson field goal in the last 2 minutes. The game was won on the other side of the ball, though. The Bears defense got 4 turnovers, eventually winning out over. We talked at the start of this. This is a big, rookie running back weekend. Genty finally had his kind of breakout day. 138 yards and a touchdown rushing, 17 yards, 2 touchdowns receiving. He was an absolute beast in this. Gino had a bit of a mare, 14-21 for 117, 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And Caleb Williams, 212 yards, a touchdown and an interception. He just he was running for his life from Big Max Crosby. He was pressured on nearly every single play. Obviously, he had the interception as well. This was a defensive slogfest. It was, not something you'll see on your highlight reels very often, but interesting structurally. And Chicago happy to get the win, but you'd think that they should be showing up against competition like Vegas a little bit stronger. Jets at Miami, 21-27. Miami finally get off the snide. Glenn's tenure in New York is off to a shaky start. He is a dubious honour of it himself, Mike McDaniels, and one other guy who started 0-4 in their Jets careers. Defense wins the day for Miami, who got three turnovers, including a goal line fumble. Um, of all things in the world, Sean, Darren Waller, 2 touchdowns. Darren Waller just mossing over the top of Sauce Gardner, and like, what what's going on in the league? I just don't understand it. A-Chang was over 5 yards a carry. Like the downside, obviously, is Hill got injured for them. He's gone for the season. Not a nice person, but was a big engine in that offense. Field brought them in close towards the tail end of this. He used his legs quite well. Some very nice passing, but the onside kick was not recovered. This is probably a stay of execution for Mike McDaniels. He's not going to be going anytime soon. Well, I say anytime soon. He's not going for about 2 more weeks at any rate. This has bought him 2 weeks to try and continue this project. But I don't know. Miami gets the win, but they do still feel like they're falling apart at the seams. New Orleans to Buffalo, 19-31. Buffalo coast to the win, but New Orleans hang around in this until the bitter end. I was surprised. I was expecting this to be way more one-sided. The New Orleans continued to surprise me by just being somewhat competitive given their roster. Rattler was decent. He had 49 yards rushing on the ground. Passing, he didn't do a wild pile. It was close enough, though. This game was 19-21 in the fourth quarter. There was 2 failed fourth down conversions as well. Cooked looked good. He went for 117 yards and a touchdown. The Saints defense really did their job in this. They got an interception. They had 3 sacks, but there just wasn't enough. There's just not enough coming offensively out of New Orleans at the moment. There's just a lack of talent on the roster, and frankly, it's only going to get worse because I imagine those guys are going to be selling players when it comes to the trade deadline. I would say potentially look at where their running backs might end up, because I think there's value left in those, and they might be trying to pick up pieces to continue the rebuild. Tennessee at Houston up next, 0-26. Oh, Titans. Oh, Titans. Just fire your head coach. Jesus Christ. Maybe now you'll fire him. Woody Marks, another rookie running back with a big breakout game, 47 yards rushing, 50 yards receiving, and a touchdown on limited touches. That guy is going to be picking up way more as the season continues on. The Texans look pedestrian until the fourth quarter. This was 6-0 in quarter 3. This is a blowout that was incredibly close until the fourth quarter. Cam Ward continues to put up terrible stat lines, 108 yards and an interception. There was 3 missed field goals in this game. It was putrid. Don't take this as a glowing recommendation of Houston. Houston were terrible, just Tennessee were terribler. Carolina, New England, 13-42. Good to wash that taste of success out of your mouth there, Carolina. Opening touchdown with a missed PAT, failed ominous, as it then proceeded to all be one-way traffic. 42 points to 6 in the fourth quarter. I was very confused because I had missed a lot of this game because I was moving between bars at the time, I believe. And I'm kind of looking at the stat lines going, how come May, like they're a million points up, but there's like very little yardage and everything involved here. And then I was like, oh wait, no, it is all special teams. Special teams kept the field short, incredibly short for them. The returner had 176 yards returning and a touchdown in this game. New England May really didn't have to do much in this. Like, he was good, he had some excellent throws in this game, but like there was no questions being asked from the Carolina side at all. The defense was non-existent, the offense was non-existent. It is a rough run for Carolina at the moment. Cleveland at Detroit, 10-34. This is a little bit more like what we expected. If the Browns, now some of this analysis, I'm going to hold my hands up. I wrote it before they made the decision to change to Dillon Gabriel. If the Browns could only score 20 points, they'd be a really tough team to play. They held the Lions to 277 yards, which is very low for the Lions. Held them to sub 50% on third downs, really good. Didn't allow them to convert a fourth down, really good. Kept their rushing attack under 4 yards per carry, that's incredible. But what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. If your offense can't score 20 points, you can't stay in these games. This was a sloppy game from everyone. I was just counting up at the end. There was 12 points, 3 interceptions, a fumble, and a missed field goal in this one. Sloppy defense is what allowed it to be competitive. This game was only 20-10 in the fourth quarter, but this Browns defense just collapsed down the stretch. The last 4 drives for the Browns were punt, fumble, punt. So yeah, I just said let a young fella take the reins. It can't be much worse than this. We're about to find out a young fella is taking the reins. finally, Cincinnati at Detroit, 3-28. Fade the Bengals. They are done. Browning had 125 yards. Brown had 40 yards rushing. What is this team? What is it meant to do? You have two superstar wide receivers. You have a good running back. You have an improved line, and you still can't do absolutely anything. This I get that the Denver are a decent to good defense, but like, come on, you got to do something. Knicks looked okay in this game. Run game was dynamic with both backs getting involved. Harvey caught a receiving touchdown as well, so another rookie running back having good fun this time. The defense just shuts down the moribund Bengals. Um, the Bengals in this entire game only had two drives that went over 30 yards. This was frankly shocking. The Cincinnati Bengals are not a football team; they are a joke. Also, I think I might now start be seeing why people keep saying Joe Burrow is the MVP, because holy shit, without Joe Burrow here, this team is nothing. That'll do us for the dump off this week, and we'll chat to you next week. Okay, Sean, let's have a look at the games for next week. Thursday Night Football is your pick of the week. San Francisco at the LA Rams.
Yeah, it's a big NFC West game. I mean, both these teams have aspirations to win their division or be playoff relevant, and well, I mean, we've seen from the Rams, as we talked about, that they're a good team. They're not a perfect team. The defense is a lot better than we thought it was, and Stafford and is keeping is keeping that offense ticking around. So there's a lot to love about the Rams. The Niners, it's been a really messy season so far. They're a 3-1 team, but they really don't feel like it at all. None of their wins have been particularly fantastic, and last week they had a very bad loss to the Jags that was basically based around the fact that they just couldn't get this offense clicking at all. Now, obviously, there's injuries hurting, but there's also just a lack of dynamism going on. It's a very bad sign when multiple 49ers fan blogs are calling for Mac Jones to be brought back in as the starting quarterback because Brock Purdy, at least Mac Jones doesn't make mistakes, which as a Pats fan, I can tell you is fundamentally not true. So a big game. If the Niners want to be relevant as a playoff team and certainly as a divisional contender, given that the Seahawks are also quite a good team that they have in division, the Niners really need to win this. Need to win this game. If they lose if they lose badly, I think it's a very big bad indicator of where their season might be going. I have a lot more faith in the Rams as an organization right now, although I do think the Niners maybe have a little bit more of a talent edge. They're just not showing it at the moment. So I'm going to go for Rams to win this one, but I think it's a really big game for telling us, are the Rams really as good as we think they are? And is there anything to like about the San Francisco team? Are the two questions I think we'll have answered by the end of this game.
Yeah. Next up, we've got a London game, Minnesota, Cleveland. I've gone for Cleveland. You and Ronan have gone for Minnesota. Dillon Gabriel starting at quarterback for Cleveland, which interestingly enough does make me question my Cleveland pick a little bit more. This is a decent to good Minnesota defense that is suffering from injuries and got picked apart last week. This is a very good Cleveland defense and a little bit of a question mark on offense. Their run game seems to be working. They have this rookie quarterback, so hopefully that will help kind of motivate the team. My actual concern is I think maybe they should have kept Flacco in for this one game because I think Minnesota's offense is not really up to much at the moment. This Cleveland defense could get after them, but Dylan Gabriel's a rookie, and I know the stats on this Flores defense against rookies is really good. But I think yeah, these London games tend to be sloppy defensive pieces. I think the Cleveland defense is better at winning in the slop, as we've seen in their AFC North matches and how they beat Green Bay. And this Minnesota team is no Green Bay, is is my thinking essentially. But still, I could see arguments for either side because it's either Cleveland's defense wins the day with them being able to score 18 points on offense, or the rookie quarterback comes in and Brian Flores looks like an absolute genius. Early window, Houston at Baltimore, Sean.
Yeah, obviously the Ravens, it's a get right game. They're 1-3, multiple injuries. Their defense looks like a mess. They've really got to get going here. It's not the easiest game. The Texans are a decent side, especially their defense looks really, really good. I think they've held all four of their opponents to 20 points or less so far this season, and they're really looking like they've taken that step up. The young kids that they've been assembling for these past 2 or 3 years are really starting to gel together. The problem with the Texans is their offense is just not really there where it needs to be. CJ Stroud has just really had a bit of a drop off, and there's not an awful lot to love about them. So this is a game where both these teams are not quite where they need to be, and the question, I mean, it's one bad defense against a bad offense, and the other side it's one good offense against a really good defense. So I think it's one of those games where half the game's going to be really interesting because it's going to be highly competitive from a quality point of view, and then the other half is going to be a bit messy. I think. I think this Houston offense against the Ravens defense will not be a particularly enjoyable experience. I think the Ravens have the talent edge just about still. I think they're in a little bit better shape offensively, and I think there is enough of a coaching edge as well, and they have the home that I have to give the edge to the Ravens here to get to 2-3, but it could easily be quite a messy game, and the Texans are getting a little bit good at winning messy games, but if the Ravens don't win this one, then it's full crisis mode for
Yeah.
sure.
I've got a feeling if Cooper Rush is playing, I might swap to picking Houston, which is a horrible statement because I never thought I'd have to be picking Houston. Miami at Carolina up next. We've gone for Miami across the board. Look, Carolina are putrid, but we'll see. Maybe they're doing the swings and roundabouts thing that Atlanta used to do, where they'll play great one week and then play terrible the next week. But Miami, they're down Tyreek Hill. They've got some skill there. We saw the defense really step up. They should be able to take care of a Carolina team. If they can't, then the Mike McDaniel's clock watch is right back on again. So Miami to win, but it's not. We're not super confident in them. Vegas at Indy, Sean.
Yeah, obviously Indy a little bit taken back to earth recently, and this will be another kind of test for them. We know that they're better than the bad teams. We know they're maybe not quite as good as like a team at the playoff level at the Rams, and now they're going to be playing a team in the middle. The Raiders are interesting slash decent, but they have an awful lot of flaws, and particularly on the offensive side, there's a lot of questions about what this Raiders team is doing. They might finally have figured out how to block for Gianti, which makes them a little bit more dangerous offensively. But the pass game's got to find its groove very quickly. This Colts defense is quite good, and they will ask a lot of questions of Gino, and they've got to find answers quickly. On the other side, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, it's the Danny Dimes versus Max Crosby experience, which is going to be an interesting one. Crosby looks like it's just like they've just completely leaned into, okay, Max Crosby is our entire defense, so let's just have him be the guy who does things on every single play, and he's obviously loving it, and he looked really dangerous against the Bears. So it'll be an interesting experience from that side. But I think the Colts have shown us enough this season that you take them in a home game against a middling team and you have to back them.
Yeah.
I think until they show us that they're not good enough to beat this level of team, we have to expect that they are good enough, and you got to give the faith to what they have. So I'm going to give them the win here.
I
We've
agree.
gone across the board for them. Yeah.
Next up, Giants at New Orleans. Myself and Ronan gone for Giants. You've gone for New Orleans. Yeah, look, Giants a little bit more energized under Dart. Their pass rush is good. They're missing neighbors, which is a big knock, and they're also traveling to New Orleans in this one. But you're seeing sparks of life. You're seeing some excitement. You're seeing them being able to play a couple of things. So I'm excited for them. New Orleans are a good but talent poor team. They could get the best of this Giants team, particularly, the Giants secondary is not its strongest, and they do have a decent downfield game with Spencer Rattler. Um, the loss of Malik Neighbors, we'll have to see. Like, obviously, it's going to be a negative for that offense, but we've got to see what they can make happen with the other weapons that they have. Like, presumably, Wandale Robinson will get more volume again, and so on. But I think this is a relatively close game between the two, so I can see picks for either side. I'm just going for the upside of the Giants to get a win and feel a little bit of positivity with the young guy versus New Orleans. Like, New Orleans are fine with just like losing out the season realistically. But of the games left on their schedule, this is one of the ones that they could win. Dallas at the Jets next, Sean. We've gone for Dallas across the board.
Yeah, obviously, two teams whose seasons are not quite going to expectations. Dallas have found a way to be incredibly messy slash fun, if you like, chaos, but aren't really winning all that many games. They have only won one game this season. It's worth remembering, and that was an overtime win against the Giants team they should have been comfortably beating. Now they face the other New York team who are 0-4 and have just found a way to lose to the Dolphins. So it's very hard to be optimistic about either of these two teams. I think we can be optimistic about where the Dallas offense is, and particularly at the level that Prescott is playing at, and C.D. Lamb and Pickens. They do seem to have gelled well together as the passing game. Whereas at the Jets side, it's just like Justin Fields. I mean, he had a good night. He had a nice touchdown last week, and he definitely seems to have that. He still has that danger when he runs, but I'm not entirely sure there's an awful lot else going on in terms of the Jets. And this defense, which is supposed to be getting a lot better, just shipped 27 points to a not particularly good Dolphins team.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately Dallas, for all their messiness, you feel that they are in a little bit of a better place than the Jets are. But the Jets really need to start winning wins on the board, or there'll be sackings all around coming. Because we know one thing we do know about the Jets upper management: they do not mind sacking coaches mid-season. So
You're
that could
dead
be
right, Sean. It's a draw. We have to do another draw.
endless ties for the rest of
Did you
history.
did you see the coverage of what happened with the Jets following the game?
No, I didn't
So
know.
Aaron Glenn was giving out to them. He was not happy, as one might imagine at 0-4, and was screaming at the team so loudly that he was able to be heard in the corridor through the brick walls from outside.
Jesus.
And Sauce Gardner was asked about it after in the press conference. They said like, "Oh, it sounded like he wasn't, wild happy there." And he goes, "No, no, no." And he goes, "So like, what was his message to you guys?" And Sauce is like, "I don't know. I have no idea." You're like, oh God, like he just screamed at you for 10 minutes and you don't know why he's angry? Oof, get it together. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it can be a bounce back for them. Next up is my pick of the week, Denver at Philly. We gone for Philly across the board because Philly have a tendency to just kind of win in these spots. But I'm very interested to see this one. I think Denver have their offense isn't quite at the level that it was at the tail end of last year, but also this is a Philly defense that is nowhere near the strength it was previously. This is a Denver defense that is in absolutely flying form versus a Philly offense that is seemingly able to squeeze a game of football into 15 to 18 minutes and then take the rest of the game off. And I'm very interested to see because I think Philly have been coasting quite a bit so far. I think they've gotten away with stuff that they really shouldn't. Like that Tampa Bay game, you know, if you just don't turn up for the second half of a game, like it's not a sustainable way to win. So I picked Philly in this one. I am increasingly leaning towards thinking that Denver are just going to surprise them and put the nail in the coffin. But we'll see. I think Philly, if they can win this one, it'll tell me an awful lot more about them because I think this front seven and this and the entirety of this defense, but also the front seven in particular, I think are going to force them to have to go to the air a little bit. And then there's some good cornerbacks on this team as well. I think they'll really be able to put it to them. I'm hoping that we don't end up with one of these like 12 to 7 defensive scraps. Like that could be fun in itself, but I think we're going to see these guys really feel each other out. And I I I the reason I have this in my biggest week is I think this is going to tell me an awful lot about Philly that I haven't gotten from a lot of the other games. Because like the Chiefs game, I came away from it going, Chiefs probably should have won that if they just had one or two little bits go right, or if they had one or two more players that were not out injured or on suspension or whatever. And then last week, realistically, you almost felt like the Tampa Bay team should have won, but they didn't quite. And yeah, they're missing a lot of guys as well. Whereas this is a relatively healthy Denver team. I think they match up well against them. I like if this was in Denver, I'd definitely be picking Denver in this one because it's at Philly. I'm not so sure. We'll see, but I just think this will be a very interesting uh, illustration of where both these teams are, and that's why I'm interested in this one. So we've gone Philly across the board. I can see it going either way. Oh my God, Sean, you pulled the bad straw. The first game of the late window. My game notes for this are: please just die. No one wants to watch this. Tennessee at Arizona.
Yep, there's certainly two football teams that will be playing in this game, although there's not much more you can say about them than that. Obviously, the Titans are. There's just not much of anything really going on. They Cam Ward is trying his best, but he's very green around the he's very green, and the team around him is not very good, and they're just making mistakes all over the place, and their defense really isn't doing enough to keep them in games. Arizona are just thoroughly uninspiring. Not having Connor. at running back means that they're basically becoming the Kyler show, and Kyler is, as he always is, he's good in flashes, but don't expect anything in the way of consistency from him. So this game, I'm going to back the Cardinals here simply because they have a little bit more going about them. They at least have an offense that does occasionally turn up and score points, whereas the Titans don't seem to have that quite yet. Which I think is just going to be enough in this game. It won't be a particularly good game, and it's very possible that the Cardinals will get dragged down into the mire and we'll have just an awful like 9-6 game or something between these two teams. But I think you have to back the Cardinals to win this one
Yeah.
simply because of how bad the Titans are at the
This is
moment.
the thing, like there's no metric, not even playing an exhibition match against college teams at the moment that you'd be backing the Titans in. I don't think. Please prove us wrong, Tennessee. Do you know what? If they fire their coach before the game, I'll, I'll consider it. But I think they're on a three-game away stint at the moment, so I can't imagine they're going to fire him in the middle of the away stint. It'll wait until they're coming back home to do that. Tampa Bay at Seattle up next. This is a fun one. Two teams both kind of punching it out to try and get their way to the playoffs from the NFC. Myself and Sean have gone for Seattle. Sean's gone for, or sorry, Ronan's gone for Tampa Bay in this one. Look, Tampa Bay are banged up, but they are still a very competitive unit. Baker is still playing really well. It's a fun group to watch. They're getting a lot of production out of their, the rookie Ibuka and so on, and they should have some of their more experienced wide receivers coming back as well, and that makes for fun matchup. Seattle, on the other hand, like they have an absolutely great looking defense at the moment. Their offense is working quite well. Yeah, like they were close and scrappy against Arizona last week, but that's an in division game. Like those are always a little bit messy. Like they're getting the run game they want out of it. They're getting, Jackson Smith and Jigba is getting his touches. They're getting enough out of Cooper Cup that I think they should be able to do it. But I think this is going to be a relatively high scoring game. I think this is going to be an exciting game to watch. I think the like this is a preview of a wild card or possibly even a divisional round playoff game. Like that's the kind of level that I think these two teams are at. Now, there's a full season ahead of us. We might not get it at that stage if someone ends up with a serious injury to one of their key players. So enjoy it now, because both these teams are, not at 100% strength, but close enough to it. They're both, exciting to watch. They should be putting on a bit of a show. So yeah, I think this is a very fun one. Detroit at Cincinnati, Sean. Jesus, you've got you got a few clunkers.
Well, I mean, at least Detroit are good. We know that
Yeah,
we'll watch Detroit put up 40 points probably, and we'll all feel better for it. Obviously, the Lions are week one has been forgotten. The offense is in a real groove now, and they just that combination of talent and execution and coaching just makes the Lions a really dangerous proposition on the offensive side. And it's very hard to see a universe in which Jake Browning can keep a pace with that. It's just there are huge problems with the Bengals. The how much Burrow was doing to keep this team competitive, I think, is becoming more and more clear with each passing week. The knives are out for Zach Taylor. I don't think he's going to survive much longer if they keep losing. But I don't really see if he's got any answers. It kind of feels like this era, this weird Bengals era, is coming to some sort of close, and something better hopefully will emerge in its wake maybe next year. But they're certainly not competitive now, especially on the offensive side of the ball. The Lions have quite a good defense as well, so they're not going to really give the Bengals anything. And then I just think they're going to light them up on the other side. I'm fully expecting another 40-point game for Detroit. So I think it'll be fun to watch in that sense, but yeah, not competitive in any meaningful way.
yeah, yeah. It'll be good for the out highlights. Maybe not to sit down to watch 3 hours of. Washington Chargers up next. I've gone for Washington. You guys have gone for the Chargers. Jaden Daniels has been medically cleared to play, so we're going to see Jaden Daniels back in the lineup. We have Terry McLaurin is due to be back in the lineup as well, so we have some more weapons around it. Debo Samuel's been working for them. The run game is working pretty well as well, with them working in, Chris Rodriguez and people like that as well. It's an exciting time, and their defense has been pretty good. Now, look, they weren't great last week, but a lot of that was being overmatched with what they were playing with at quarterback. So I think we should see a big uptick in that. And even then, they were still kind of in that game till late enough. On the other side, we have a Chargers team that is looking to kind of level out a little bit. It's maybe not got the speed behind it did beforehand. You've got a run game that was finding great success, but an ideological aversion to running the ball more. So we'll see what happens with that. But this is also a team that's missing its left and right tackles, so they're on to backup tackles. I believe they're down at guard as well. Like this is a banged up Chargers team. Uh, Coming up against a Washington team that is underperforming versus where they think they should be, has the return of their rookie phenom now second year sophomore slumper question mark coming in trying to change that narrative. I think we should see some fireworks. I think we're going to see defensive players getting home as well in this on both sides of the ball. So I think should be a very exciting game. Should probably be high scoring enough because this Chargers defense was really not much at the races last week. Like we saw, talked about it in the dump off against the Giants stuff, but or sorry, it wasn't even the dump off. They actually made it. The Giants made it all the way out of the dump off because of their performance against them. And Washington are a better team than the Giants are, for certain. So we'll see how this looks. But Chargers are at home, so I can see why you guys are shading that direction. I'm just kind of I feel Washington get themselves back on track here, and the Chargers level themselves right back out again. And yeah, we get a good run at it. Sunday Night Football, Sean. Oof, New England take on the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad time to be a Pats fan. I mean, it's obviously there are historical comparisons that are not great, but the Pats, something is being built here. The offense isn't quite good, even though they scored, 42 points, whatever, last week. You still don't have an awful 100% faith in the Pats offense. I mean, Drake May is developing as time goes on, and he's starting to find Hunter Henry stuff as reliable. So there's stuff building in New England that means that you look at this game and you go, it might be competitive. That they'll be able to keep pace with the Bills for a while. I just don't know how long they'll be able to keep that up because the Bills are okay. The last game against the Saints, that it wasn't the best performance. They kind of huffed and puffed, but they managed to get to the win, and that maybe is the difference with the Bills this year. Is even when they're not playing well, they still find a way to eke out the victory. And Josh Allen, there just seems to be a point in every game where Josh Allen just decides to win the game. He's just like, okay, enough messing around. I'm just going to do the thing. I'm either going to find my receiver deep or I'm going to run it for myself, and I will personally lead his team to victory. And as long as he's doing that, it's very hard to bet against the Buffalo Bills. So I think they have a talent edge here. Obviously, they have the home field advantage. And I think the Pats, for all the last few weeks, have made us be a little bit more optimistic of where they're going. I just don't think they're anything close to the Bills level yet, and it's going to be difficult to see them keep pace, especially when the Bills do their inevitable stepping up a gear in the third quarter or whatever to just kind of cruise away to victory.
Yeah, like as much as the Bills will be wanting to do the kind of like, well, when it's 60%, we'll win it 70% and not stretch ourselves to the divisional opponent at home, you want to lock these ones in. So yeah, I can't really see past them. Finally, Chiefs traveling down to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. We're taking Kansas City across the board. They looked exciting last week. They defense stepped up very well. The offense was clicking. Mahomes, if he's in that kind of form, is a scary man to do. I've still got some concerns about the run game not really getting going. I have but believe that we might well see the Chiefs in the market for a running back before the trade deadline passes by. Jacksonville, on the other side, actually looked quite good last week. They got a win. They got off the schneid. They looked a little bit different. They beat up on that San Francisco team. Am I concerned about the fact that they have a minimum of three turnovers in every game so far? Yeah, I'm a little concerned that they have a minimum of three turnovers in every game so far. I'm hoping maybe we can break that streak. That'd be pretty nice. That'd be a nice one to break. But this is Mahomes in prime time. Yes, he's on the road. Yes, it's down in a swamp that the guys are used to playing in. But like, it's hard to look past Kansas City in this one if they're anything like they were in their game against the Ravens this week. Now, that said, you could well see a regression. We could see this being, the Jacksonville resurgence, strong win last week against the 49ers, now come out swinging against the kind of the big dogs of your conference.
Conference.
But yeah, like I think going on what we've seen so far in the season, Kansas City seemed like a safe call in this one. But I could see Jacksonville keeping this in touch. It's a weird it's a weird world we live in where I'm like, man, yeah, I could see Jacksonville keeping it closer than the Ravens. Yeah, I could definitely see that. But yeah, that's how I feel at the moment. So fun. teams on bye: Atlanta, Chicago, Green Bay, Pittsburgh. So they're all resting up and getting themselves raring to go. But that'll wrap it up for this week. So Sean, any plans for the weekend, etc.?
Not much, I think. We're quiet enough. My wife is off work next week, so there's some plans for that. I think I am going to be painting a bedroom or two,
And
or
are
maybe just
you,
the one.
is that when you are gearing up for your driving test, or?
Yes, so that would be Friday week,
Oh, okay,
the
okay.
10th.
So you got one
So
more
yeah,
check in
I've
with
been out
us.
I've been out a few times, and things confidence is building. I'm feeling okay. Just gotta remember to do all the things. It's that weird balance where you're trying to practice so you get comfortable with the car, but you're trying not to ingrain too many habits that are against what the testers are looking for.
Oh yeah, like
So
I've been
it's
driving for years, and there's so many things that I do that the testers would not be happy with. Like,
so yeah, no, I'm yeah, I'm not looking forward to it exactly, but I feel up to it. Yeah.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, I'm heading down to Kerry for the weekend, so nice drive in the pissing down rain, and then get back, do a few bits around here. I want to try and get out and play a bit of golf, but I'm not sure if this weather is going to be as bad as it's suggesting. I might just hold off until that gets, a little bit nicer. I know we're in October now, so probably the likelihood of getting good weather is going to be fewer and further between. But yeah, no, it should be good. Nice chilled out, relaxing one, and then a nice big pile of football to watch on the Sunday. So that's always nice. I'm keeping a close eye here because I've spoken beforehand. I do a Premier League predictor league in work, and I don't watch soccer, so it makes it a bit more exciting. Uh, I am currently 10. So the average score in a week is like 25, 30 points. Now this is a bigger week because there's a double set of championship games. I think it is. There are 4 games left to play, and I am 10 points ahead currently on 50 points scored. My strategy has worked out incredibly well, which is
Wow.
basically I pick a lot of draws because draws score well and people rarely pick them. Um, so there's 4 games left to play tonight, and I think if I get a draw in any one of them, I've locked up a victory this week, which would be remarkable, really. For someone who doesn't watch football to have won like 3, 4, 5 weeks of this thing across 3 years is nuts. But yeah, it just goes to show it's all skill. It's all skill. But yeah, on that lovely note, I suppose, and it's what they call a cliffhanger in the business, Sean. This is going to get everyone back next week to find out did I win my works football predictor league. Um, it's bye from myself. It's bye from Sean.
Bye.
This has been all 4 quarters. Thanks for listening, and we'll chat to you next week.